Welcome to Past Paradise, where we explore Hollywood's most interesting actors, fascinating lives, and legacies. Today we're discussing Sybil Shepherd, a charming and versatile actress who won hearts on and off film. Sybil never contacted Bruce Willis after Moonlighting finished, which has baffled fans for years. We'll discuss their distance, Sybil's work, and her passionate relationships. We'll explore Sybil Shepherd's secret story, from her breakthrough performances to her legendary love relationships. Young Beauty Queen. On February 18, 1950, Sybil Lynn Shepherd was born in Memphis to Patty and Bill. Her first name, Cy and Bill, combines her father's and grandpa's names. When she was younger, she wanted to be a novelist. But Sybil's life had other ideas. She entered pageants and contests after winning Miss Teenage Memphis at 16, leading to her career as a model. Her pretty face. Sybil was so popular in the 1960s fashion industry that every magazine wanted to include her young face on the cover. Peter Bogdanovich first saw Sybil's face staring at him from the cover of Glamour as he was waiting to pay for his groceries during a routine trip to the grocery store. The filmmaker was charmed by Sybil Shepherd's beautiful face and intense gaze. Because nepotism and show business go hand in hand, Peter informs his wife, who also happens to be his production designer, that he has discovered JC, the main character for his movie. Her acting career. Sybil landed the role of JC in The Last Picture Show when they located her and had her try out. Sybil's audition technique had a profound effect on Bogdanovich. She pretended to be carefree and didn't care whether she got the role as she sat on the floor of his hotel room playing with a rose. This detached aspect impressed the producer, who remembers, there was a kind of collectedness in her eyes. She seemed to be seeing you through sunglasses. Office romance blooms. Men were virtually falling at Sybil's feet. Despite their 11-year age gap, Bogdanovich, 31, began to feel a connection with Sybil, 20. In addition, there was the little issue of his previous marriage vows and the impending birth of his second child. In the movie, she co-starred with Jeff Bridges, and the two of them got along so well that they began dating off-set. Sybil recognized, looking back, that it could have been a mistake. It's not a good idea to date your leading men, but sometimes it's hard not to. I got that out of the way my first film, the actress added, much later in her career. Something caused another. The chemistry between Peter and Sybil could not be avoided. Even though they worked alongside their loves, Polly and Jeff, they always had them around. After The Last Picture Show, they continued their long-term romance for many years since they couldn't remain apart. Sybil and Peter got acquainted when Jeff was away serving in the military for a week. Halfway through the shoot, Peter filed for divorce so he could be with Sybil. Poor Jack's expectations. It is impossible to say that their relationship was steady. Sybil claimed to have avoided several people in Hollywood, Jack Nicholson being one of them. But it's obvious that her expectations of camaraderie were out of date when it came to attempting to make Peter jealous. Sybil said, "I kind of broke a date with him, and I haven't worked with him since." Peter understood Sybil's message and lured his girlfriend away from the notorious womanizer Jack Nicholson. Appreciated Elvis's scent. Jack wasn't the only one trying to woo popular girl Sybil away from Peter. Elvis Presley was interested in Sybil and wanted to take her out on a date, Sybil learned from a mutual acquaintance. He phoned Sybil at her suggestion, and they arranged a time. For a little while, they were engaged. Elvis Presley was an incomparable lover, Sybil said. It was 1972, and everyone else was wearing cheap cologne except for him. He smelled like sweat and honey, sweet and soapy. I was very sorry for him. To social influence. The rock and roll king's seductive attraction to Sybil wasn't enough to keep their relationship going. She declined his offer and his lovely, sweaty company when he allegedly encouraged her to use drugs. Her thoughts turned to another guy. People were often talking about Peter and Sybil. However, the public believed their timing was odd, given that Peter's ex-wife had just given birth to their second child when he left her to pursue a relationship with Sybil. Sybil wisely observed, "One person never ends a marriage," with little respect for the 9 years Polly and Peter were wed. Sybil, an inspiration. Both of them appeared to gain from their connection. After seeing actress Sybil in movies, Peter was motivated to base his movies and characters on her. In 1974, Daisy Miller began production, with Sybil starring in the main role. "There was a great resemblance between Daisy and Sybil," Peter said. "Sybil was frequently misinterpreted, just like Daisy." Peter said, "Daisy Miller is about an entire culture that doesn't understand her, yet there was an innocence behind her and Sybil." Peter was unfortunate to learn that the movie was a complete failure. Career in music. People weren't fond of Sybil's presence when Daisy Miller was an utter failure. Her partner talked her into trying her hand, or her voice, at singing because she could walk in a room and feel a concentrated hatred. In 1974, Peter assisted her with producing the album Sybil Does It to Cole Porter. Despite having studied opera for a while, many thought her voice lacked quality. There are rumors that Frank Sinatra said, "Some guys will do anything to bawl abroad," after listening to Sybil's album. A jazz fan. According to Sybil's account, she was recording her album when Stan Getz made a move at her. She turned off his approach since she wasn't into him. As a well-known jazz musician, this hurt his pride, and he wasn't very happy about it. Her songs didn't get a lot of love. Even the reviewer, who described her voice as surprisingly pleasant, criticized her CD and gave it a low rating. Sweet and enamored Peter, meanwhile, wasn't prepared to give up on Sybil's musical future. Lacking in musicality. In 1974, Peter tried his hand at the musical comedy with At Long Last Love. Critics and the general public recoiled in revulsion at Sybil and Burt Reynolds. Gene Shalit said, "Sybil Shepherd cannot act, sing, or dance." Not everyone was against Sybil's performance, and some devoted but misinformed fans supported her by criticizing and blaming Burt Reynolds instead of Sybil. A trend was beginning to show in Peter's film's poor box office performances. The unavoidable divorce. After the musical's disastrous collapse, everyone who had been touched was finished with Sybil and Peter. Nickelodeon, Peter's next movie, was supposed to be produced by David Begelman, but he informed Peter that if Sybil was in it, he wouldn't. Unsurprisingly, Peter expressed his displeasure by saying, "It was a movie I wrote for her." Tatum O'Neal was ultimately given the job. He continued saying, "Most of it was Sybil as she is, at her most vulnerable, with her dangerous, sexy part, which she doesn't have to work at. It's just there." Sybil and Peter together. The couple was very perplexed about why everyone was so unhappy while they were happy. In most cases, the media was happy to see individuals in love, but not in this particular instance. They had to ask themselves what made them different. According to Peter's theory, they were too happy, which conflicted with the moral standards that the hypocrites of Hollywood required people to uphold. It was prohibited for them to be together, and they were chastised for it. They believed Peter had followed his irrational instincts after falling in love, as is common with artists. Regarding Sybil, she was the house wrecker who kidnapped a guy from his family in an attempt to advance in life. It was not meant for them to have a happily ever after. Ideal actress Sybil. Sybil's needs were met by David Begelman, despite his earlier refusal to allow Peter to cast her in another of his movies. David assisted her in landing a role in the movie Taxi Driver, which was scripted by industry heavyweights Martin Scorsese and Paul Schrader. Upon conceiving the part, they envisioned an actress like Sybil Shepherd. She was there, in the flesh, fulfilling Scorsese's and Paul Schrader's conception of the perfect woman. An amalgam, a type. Chance for romance. The main male character in Taxi Driver, portrayed by Robert De Niro, is wooed and enamored with a female character named Betsy, played by Sybil. De Niro seems to struggle to distinguish between his emotions on film and his real-life experiences. He tried it anyhow, but she rejected him. Once again, De Niro's ego was injured, resulting in his childlike behavior. He stopped being polite to Sybil and only talked to her while they acted out their parts. The taxi driver did a great job, and the comments were positive, thinking back to what may have occurred if she had accepted, Sybil muses. She was gone. Following Taxi Driver's popularity, Sybil found it difficult to turn things around for the better. Alfred Hitchcock recreated The Lady Vanishes, in which she was cast as the lead. Shortly after, she vanished underground. Resuming her musical career, she first gave performances at jazz clubs in New York and later at a hospital in Hollywood. She tried doing things differently and returned to acting since it wasn't working out. After attending Stella Adler's acting workshops, she was allowed to perform on stage in Norfolk, Virginia. An experienced friend. Sybil's pal list was amazing. The legendary actor and one of the most important filmmakers of the 20th century, Orson Welles, experienced one of them. Welles counseled her to get up on stage and experience the reaction and engagement of a live audience. Furthermore, he insisted it should occur somewhere other than New York or Los Angeles, since the populace in such cities is more difficult to satisfy. The actress contacted her mother in tears as a result of her uncertainties. Like other moms, her mother suggested she return to Memphis as a solution. That's exactly what she did. A meritorious salvation. She had no idea how much people's perceptions of her would change when she returned to her hometown. That is, they didn't have any notions or expectations about her. You know, I was famous, and then I moved to Memphis. Nobody would even ask me if I was famous every time I went to the grocery store, she said. Sybil had been the target of the Hollywood media's malice and excessive criticism for so long, being at home felt good. She became friend. After falling in love, Sybil married David Ford, an average Joe. David, who worked as a bartender at night and as a parts manager at a car dealership by day, met his date while placing drink orders at a pub named Blues Alley. He was unusual for Sybil anyhow. She saw in David the possibility of leading a happy, typical life. She soon became pregnant with his kid, and the following year, 1978, she was married, the same year her romance with Peter ended. Baby in tow. Clementine Ford was born to the couple in 1979, but Sybil wasn't the kind of woman to sit at home and raise her kids. The young family embarked on a journey only a few weeks after she gave birth to Clementine. Sybil would do the same on stage, and David would broaden his skill set to include managing her. She committed herself to acquiring the knowledge and expertise she believed would help her acting career wherever she went. For Sybil, no theatrical production was too large or too little. Peter grimaced from Bel Air as Sybil continued living her life, referring to David as that garage mechanic. Didn't work out. After James MacArthur and Sybil were cast in a Broadway play, Sybil relocated to New York in 1982. Jean Kerr wrote the play titled Lunch Hour. The first rehearsal was held in New York, although it was intended to be a theatrical tour. Sybil and David decided to dissolve their marriage at this period. She had decided to return to Los Angeles by '83 and brought Clementine with her. She felt ready to re-immerse herself after taking a 5-year hiatus and gaining diverse experience. Resumed TV career. In the evenings, Sybil starred as Colleen Champion in the Western drama series The Yellow Rose. Sam Elliott was also on the program, and although it debuted to positive reviews, it was canceled after only one season. The producer, Michael Zinberg, later acknowledged that his casting proposal for Sybil was met with fierce resistance from the production crew. But she was persistent, and it paid off. According to Zinberg, she tried out for the role many times at the network and the studio, not just once. She was very courageous. The necessary action. Saying, "Hey, I've got to get out of here," takes incredible bravery. Zinberg praised Sybil's bravery and said, "I've got to look in the mirror and find out who I am. It's like, wow, there's a woman who came back from just everybody in Hollywood dumping on her." Helene's persona was audacious, open, and endearing in a direct manner. Compared to the quiet, almost superior characters Sybil had portrayed in the past, she was a completely different person. That discovered her. Without realizing it, the creator of the television show Moonlighting crafted a scene just for Sybil. He had reached this realization 50 pages into the essay. He had never seen her in person and hardly remembered the contempt she aroused before leaving Hollywood. He reasoned, "I think that Sybil has always been a slightly miscast and underappreciated actress. I saw her, and my chin hit the table, and my tongue hit the floor," he recalls saying when they decided to meet the day after she read the screenplay. Individuality that proved. According to the author's perspective, she realized that the script kind of took that and poked it, thinking that America thought of her as a slightly spoiled, bratty, uppity, cold bitch goddess. There was also some worry that her coldness might be an issue on television, but it didn't stop the production from moving forward. She appeared to like the concept she was playing. Sybil was on the team that chose Bruce Willis for the program because it was crucial for her to work well with her co-star. Every possible tension. The Moonlighting set was hardly a calm or conflict-free place to work. Bruce and Sybil were at each other's throats all the time for the 4 years the program lasted. Sybil finally suggested to Bruce that they work out their differences, thinking it could have resulted from sexual tension. After Bruce brought Sybil a bottle of wine, they briefly made out, but that was the end of their relationship. Sybil thought, maybe Bruce prefers the chase to the catch. Their relationship strained. The plot of Moonlighting was centered on a man and a woman who were always at odds with one another, and this was essentially a representation of real-life events as well. Bruce wasn't well known when the program was first being filmed, and he laughed at everything. However, Bruce lost his charm after he starred in Die Hard and became famous. With every season that passed, their disdain for one another grew until, by the conclusion of season 5, they were at odds with one another. A legendary rivalry. The claim that their relationship was strained is like stating that Mercury's surface is heated. The crew reportedly had to use body doubles for some scenes because getting the actors close to each other caused them to become extremely agitated. They would measure the distance between their 2 trailer doors to the stage entrance so one actor wouldn't have to walk even a foot farther than the other. There was a real fight instead of a contrived one in one moment. It quickly got out of hand, and Sybil threw a briefcase against the door. Discovered the unexpected. Sybil gave birth to twins while filming the program's 4th season, significantly pregnant. She was seeing a chiropractor, Bruce Oppenheim, in 1987. They decided to tie the knot. Filming wasn't easy because of everything in Sybil's personal life. Sybil's job schedule was less than ideal due to her pregnancy. Bruce, who co-starred with her, felt unfairly treated and became resentful as a result. They refused to look at each other at the series finale, and so the filmmakers had to employ some deft slow motion to create the illusion that they were. All that hatred. Although it was well known how much they hated one another, their performances in Moonlighting helped them win accolades and become well known. Bruce received 1 Golden Globe and 1 Emmy trophy, while Sybil received 1 Golden Globe. Following the conclusion of the program in '89, they lost contact. These days, their notorious animosity for one another is more recognized than the roles they performed in the series. In 2018, Comedy Central did a roast of Bruce Willis, to which Sybil added, "Our Moonlighting characters weren't much of a stretch. He played an asshole, which he is, and I played a former model, which I was." Tough to ignore. Sybil had the same behaviors and inclinations when returning to her old playground. She paired with Don Johnson in the television movie The Long Hot Summer when Moonlighting was produced. "As soon as we met, Don Johnson and I knew we were in love," Sybil stated. "We lasted a nanosecond on the porch and rapidly progressed to my bed," she said. "It ended in 5 minutes and was as quick, violent, and intense as wolfing down a candy bar when you're famished." Returned with success. In 1987, Sybil married the father of her twins, Molly Ariel and Cyrus Zachariah. However, around 1989, Sybil resumed landing significant parts in big-budget motion pictures. Her marriage to Bruce Oppenheim ended, and so did her moonlighting career. Sybil had returned to her career goals by the 1990s, but in the process, her marriage to her husband took a hit, and they decided to divorce. It so happened that she crossed paths with Peter Bogdanovich for The Last Picture Show's sequel that same year. To Texasville's past. Peter reunited with The Last Picture Show's former cast members for their Texasville performance. The author said the book was an homage to Sybil, and they had taken inspiration for the writing from the original movie. The studio first hesitated to allow Peter to direct, but they eventually caved in when Sybil threatened to quit if they weren't allowed to. It also required considerable persuasion for Tim Bottoms, an early cast member, to accept his part. It seems he was dissatisfied with the behavior shown by his castmates some years before. An easy one. Not even the handful who had seen Texasville knew what to think. Not that it affected Sybil's career in any way, as Woody Allen's Alice was her next project. Sybil appeared at the cinema with Alec Baldwin and Mia Farrow, but the manufacturing was not simple. At the time, Mia and Woody were in a romantic relationship, and Mia was juggling her profession and love life with her young children. After they were done shooting, Woody had to get mental assistance since the procedure was too much for him to bear. Her television series. Sybil has worked on a series of high-profile films for a few years. Among them are Eugene Levy's Once Upon a Crime and Chances Are, which starred Robert Downey Jr., Sybil, who had her comedy in 1995. A character named Sybil Sheraton was the focus of the plot. There were some traits that Sybil the person and Sybil the character had in common. The women, both in their 40s, had divorced twice. Actress Sybil Sheraton was also attempting to get into Hollywood, but was only placed in mediocre shows. In 1996, Sybil won a Golden Globe for her performance as herself. Book was complete. 2 years after Sybil's death, Amy Lee Ball and Sybil co-wrote her memoirs, which was released. It's difficult to avoid being sucked into the drama when a book with a title like Sybil Disobedience, How I Survived Beauty Pageants, Elvis, Sex, Bruce Willis, Lies, Marriage, Motherhood, Hollywood, and the irrepressible urge to say what I think. The shocking details of many relationships and liaisons Sybil had engaged in while living in Hollywood were revealed. Even though not everyone agreed with her assessment, some found her remarks interesting. Sybil Disobedience's storyline wanders almost as much as the actress's affections, one reviewer said. Overcame melanoma. Sybil's back developed a scaly area in 2002 that turned out to be skin cancer. Someone close to Sybil claims that she wasn't happy with the news. She believed that her children would lose their mother and that she would die a terrible, agonizing death. Sybil sobbed all the time and could hardly sleep. Fortunately, her melanoma could be surgically removed, negating the need for more chemotherapy or radiation treatment. Cosmetic skin grafting was necessary to hide the incision site completely. Continued to emerge. Sybil appeared in the hit comedy 8 Simple Rules in 2003 before changing into Martha Stewart. She was selected to play Martha in 2 films, released 2 years apart, since she was such a fantastic match. Martha Incorporated, The Story of Martha Stewart, was published first, followed by Martha Behind Bars. For the last 3 seasons of The L Word, starting in 2007, Sybil played Phyllis Kroll. 3 years later, she starred alongside Jennifer Love Hewitt in the television movie and series The Client List. Decade-long heartbreak. Resolving trauma together may create a lifelong relationship. Sybil battled and triumphed over her melanoma diagnosis with the love and support of her boyfriend, Robert Martin. Robert and Sybil were introduced through the concert as he wrote the music for her. Before splitting up, they were together for several years. A different guy proposed to Sybil after 10 years. Sybil and psychologist Andrei Nikolajevich got engaged in 2012. However, the couple's marriage disintegrated soon after. According to Sybil, "I think there was a part of my broken heart that wasn't going to heal." A gorgeous face. The actress has had various jobs, from authoring a hit book to the superficial field of modeling, but she never stopped. She took action because she wanted to change the world. Thanks to the funds she donated, her hometown of Memphis now boasts a National Civil Rights Museum. Sybil has no problem speaking out and taking a position for those who don't have a voice. She received the National Ally for Equality Award for using her influence and public persona to support pro-choice, same-sex marriage, and homosexual rights. Experienced sexual harassment. In 2018, Sybil dropped the bomb. The reason for Sybil's deactivation was her refusal to comply with the sexual approaches made by the CBS chairman. Les Moonves had decided to flirt with Sybil over a business dinner. She rejected his advances, and as soon as she did, her independence on her sitcom was restricted. The program would have run another 5 years, according to Sybil, if Les hadn't acted in such a harsh manner. It wasn't only Sybil. Numerous actresses revealed alarming details of Les Moonves' misbehavior, and the network fired him. Family has it. In the instance of Clementine Shepard Ford, the fruit did not fall very far from the tree. She also decided to become an actress and co-starred with her mother in The L Word. She has previously played supporting roles in teen-oriented films such as Cherry Falls, Bring It On, and American Pie. After starring as Mackenzie Browning in the 2009 season of The Young and the Restless, Clementine decided to transition her talents to the stage. Phantoms Go Down is a play written by Ariel Shepard Oppenheim, Sybil's second daughter, which Clementine participated in 2012. Cyrus Wilcox, Clementine's spouse, is an actress as well. Out of nothing. Considering all her achievements, Sybil Shepard has gone far from her beginnings. She took a difficult circumstance and triumphantly turned it around, holding her head high. She is more talented than just attractive, and she was prepared to put in the effort. She has shown other actors that it is possible to repair a reputation if you don't give up, giving them hope in the face of harsh public criticism. Sybil is still a gorgeous lady and sometimes appears in films. Current initiatives. With noteworthy roles in television and movies, Sybil Shepard has continued to be involved in the entertainment business. She demonstrated her persistent charm and acting skills in a recurring part of a well-liked streaming series. Individual life. Sybil has discussed her former romances and professional highlights in recent interviews. She has also shared details about her experiences working on classic films like Moonlighting and Taxi Driver. She keeps being open about her experiences in Hollywood, striking a balance between her accomplishments as a professional and her personal stories. Lobbying and generosity. Sybil Shepard still advocates for subjects near and dear to her heart, such as LGBTQ+ and women's rights. She continues to be a vocal supporter of equality and has received recognition for her services to the field of social justice. Public proclamations. Sybil has gained notoriety for her witty remarks and direct analysis of the entertainment industry's current affairs. Her outspoken character and desire to speak truth to power have made her popular with colleagues and audiences. Future initiatives. In the near future, Sybil Shepard will appear in a much-awaited indie film that delves into issues of personal atonement and familial relationships. Her part is anticipated to highlight her adaptability and lasting brilliance. History and acknowledgement. Looking back on her illustrious career, Sybil Shepard's contributions to television and movies are again valued. Retrospectives recognize her legendary roles and effect on succeeding generations of performers and continue to underscore her imprint on popular culture.
If you've watched the video till here, that means you've enjoyed the video. Subscribe. Don't forget to turn on the notifications bell icon